Most guys think that hitting six figures in a month takes some secret funnel or hack. What if I told you it's less about what you do and more about who and how you build? My name is Andrew Chow, and this is the Rising with the Tide. I'm thinking of changing the name to Sunrise with the Rising Tide, an Achieve Championship podcast. In 2014, I was broke, addicted, and dropped out of engineering. Now I help high-performing Asian men build bodies, businesses, and brotherhood. In the last year, I built a six-figure business. Well, actually, in the last month, I built a six-figure business in under 30 days from scratch. So from the start of July to end of July, we made around 50,000 cash collected on a brand new business. Today, I want to break down exactly how I did it and the 6 reasons it worked, none of which have anything to do with flashy marketing. I want to give you a bit of context. The business I'm talking about is an appointment setter agency. There are a lot of these around. I've actually invested in a few of these myself, and I've been on the client end. So I know the pros and cons. I know what it's like to be a client, what my expectations are. And in this industry, in the coaching industry, finding an appointment setter is pretty tough. For some people, they might be lucky and the first one they find seems to be an amazing culture fit. But sometimes you might have to go through 5, 6, 7, or maybe 8 of them in a year to find the right one. And the turnover rate in this industry is incredibly high for closers and setters. And most people don't even call appointment setters or DM setters. They're called virtual assistants. They actually do a whole bunch of other things, including admin work, outreaching, data tracking, data input. And so being able to find someone that you can build with, that's actually part of your team and doesn't feel like a contractor that they're doing temporary work. If you have a look at any of their resumes that come through, we get hundreds of these come through a week. And most of them, their tenure for previous jobs are usually in a few months. And now there's a few reasons. 1, the skill might not be where it needs to be. But 2, there's also the leadership in terms of the offer owner or the coach that they're working for. Maybe they're not providing the support, the resources, the training, development that person needs. And I was of this camp. I tried to find an absolute killer because it was something that I didn't want to do. I didn't want to be in the messages. I didn't want to be in my mailbox. I didn't want to spend 4 to 6 hours every single day outreaching people, having conversations. And so I thought hiring someone that knew those skills would get me to where I needed to be. And this was back in 2021. And so if I spoke to you back in 2021, it was me. That was my messenger. And it was the blind leading the blind because I didn't have the tools, I didn't have the resources to support them, to give them the knowledge and the resources that they need to excel and to continue to do well. And what happened at the end of the day was bad habits started to expand and get bigger, and we weren't able to generate as much leads. And I blamed the messenger. I had to fire them, let them go, hire someone new. We went through many different messengers with varying levels of success. And it was very frustrating. This went on for about 2 years. But ultimately, what it came down to was me. It was my responsibility. The business wasn't generating as much leads as it needed to because I wasn't doing what I needed as a business owner or an offer owner to create the content and generate those leads. I just relied on the brute force of appointment setters. So that was issue number 1. And after a few years, specifically last year, we found our killer messenger. Her name was Kat. Very lucky that we found her. Needle in a haystack. She had great attitude. She was very attentive. She was very trustworthy because trust is built when you're hiring them to handle your mailbox. You don't have the capacity or the bandwidth to micromanage them, to make sure they're doing the right thing, to check every single message. You need to have a good trust system, someone that you can trust. And Kat was that. And this was also started the uprising where we started to really niche down, really start to focus on building out our offer. It's funny because 2023, we'd been in business for almost 3 years. 2024, almost 3.5, 4 years. And we were still trying to figure out our offer. And people wonder why the business doesn't take off. The offer is everything. But you have to go through those last 3 or 4 years to have the perspective to know how to refine, to know the direction and angle to look. And so we started to do really well with Kat. And as she started to perform and get really embedded into our offer, I started to feel anxious. What happens if I lose Kat? What happens if something happens? God forbid she's no longer with us or the team. What am I going to do? So I had to build a contingency plan. So I got Kat to build out her processes and document exactly what she does day to day so that someone could replicate her. And as a team expands, she could be the one that trains them. So I don't have to be the one that trains them anymore. And so this is when I really started to learn about leadership, which isn't about command or authority or delegation. It's about mastering the process of learning and then learning how to skill transfer that. And so you do the things once, get good enough to bake out a process to then transfer to someone else so they can actually do it. So you can continue to move on and climb the ladder of your own business. And that is how you expand. While the other camp or the other way of doing it is hiring talent. But hiring talent requires a lot of investment. You have to pay someone an exorbitant amount for their experience. However, if you don't even have a proven offer, it's a high risk because they're going to be expecting a consistent pay over a long period. But if the business isn't able to sustain that or support that, then that's not going to last. And so the safest route for any business owners that are looking to scale from 30 to 50K a month to 100K, it's about having a really good offer, a system in place that you can generate consistent leads, and then the appointment setter is really going to take that business to the next level. But you need to have clear processes in place. So after going through all this, even before we found Kat, we had an agency that was very sticky. And what that means is it made us dependent on them. I barely even got to engage with the setters. It was like 3,000 USD a month. We had like 3 or 4 setters that I didn't even know their names. They were in the accounts on random times throughout the day, and they were also working other accounts as well. And the feedback was really frustrating because you can't relay the feedback directly to them. What happens? You have to relay the feedback to who? To the big boss. And she would then relay the feedback back to her team. And so there's always Chinese whispers, and it never quite feels like they're part of your team. And obviously that didn't work out very well. They're not invested towards the mission, or the values aren't aligned. They're just employees, not even employees. They're just contractors that you don't really build a connection and relationship with. And then eventually we found Kat, started to build out a team. Now we have a team of messengers. And over the weekend, Seneca, one of the messengers, actually got married, and she asked Hang and I and the team to actually send through a congratulatory video. So the fact that she wanted us to say a little bit or share a little bit at her wedding goes to show the relationship that we have with our team. Seneca also mentioned that the coaches she was with previously was with for 3 years, and something happened, a miscommunication, and she got fired. She was disposable. She wasn't treated like family. And she considered going for her law degree. She didn't pass the bar. And her husband said that maybe she should invest in skills that make her invaluable. And I think this is, obviously that's a right move. However, I think this is also the industry of coaching or offer owners that frankly just don't give a shit about their team. That's facts. They just see their team as a means for them to generate money to buy the time back. But what I'm about to share with you, exactly how I built this business, is going to spawn why we create the appointment setter agency, the setter placement program. So over the last year, we have a great team. And as you may or may not know, I also do business coaching for my mentor. I believe in what he does. I love it. And I have no reason to do my own business coaching because I love running my own business. I make all the money I need here. And what I notice is that these coaches that are making 50, 100, 150K a month, one of their bottlenecks, there's actually really 4 main levers. One is acquisition, finding consistent leads. Once you find consistent leads, you need to convert them to booked calls. So that's where the appointment setters come into play. And once you convert them to booked calls, you need to convert those to paying clients, which is where the closers come into play. And once they become clients, you need to find good CSMs or coaches, and then that's the fulfillment/retention. And so once they join Will's program, you're going to unlock your customer acquisition. I help the core values and mission objective, understanding how to build out your offer and your identity. Then once you do that and you run ads and you're printing leads on demand, your next bottleneck is being able to convert those to booked calls. And finding setters is extremely hard. You might have a good setter, and then what happens? Something gets in the way. Life gets in the way. So as a business, you cannot be dependent on just a person. You need to be dependent on a process. That's called business continuity. Think about a bank. If a senior exec was sick, does the bank stop and you're not allowed to withdraw your money? The whole business continues to run with or without them. If they were to leave, you have a process to be able to train, recruit, hire, develop, and someone to backfill that spot within a month. And so these offer owners are struggling with that. And when we were in Bali, 1st of July. It was actually an athlete's retreat, supposed to take some time off and relax. And that was actually the first week that I was able to take a step back from taking discovery calls. And in doing so, I felt incongruent. I can't ask my team to work hard while I'm literally enjoying a holiday in Bali. How do I inspire them to work hard, to put in longer hours, to really excel, get outside the comfort zone when I am in the ultimate comfort zone? And so, whatever time that I had in Bali, I ended up working more. I actually worked more in Bali than I did over here. So, before the Bali trip, if you guys have been following, watching me on my stories, you know that I'm up at like 4 o'clock in Bali because of the time difference. We ended up waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning. And that's 5 o'clock in Australia. So that's technically later than what we were used to waking up. So I woke up early. I got 4 hours of work done before we went on our morning walk, had breakfast. And during the time that I had downtime, not taking discovery calls, I saw the gap and we were like, why don't we create a business from this? So what happened? We had to let Seta go because of her performance. She wasn't showing up to meetings. She wasn't giving us any advance notice or communicating, which is a big red flag. And I tell anyone in the team, I don't need a shark. I need a team player. And this particular individual, great person. She was very bubbly. We loved her as a person, but I couldn't trust her as a team member. So I had to let her go, which meant that I had to put out a job posting to find someone to replace her. And in doing so, we had someone on standby. We interviewed them, ready to get started. And Kat was actually the one that interviewed them. So she's actually been able to increase in terms of her duties and responsibilities. So we're about to hire. And then we had someone internally that wanted to raise the hand to be an appointment setter. He was actually doing the triage, like the outbound calling to set appointments. And so we're like, okay, Harry, if you want to do this, let's do this. But I need you to be consistent. And he's like, yes, I'll do it. And Harry is young. He's based in Canada. He has a lot of things that he wants to accomplish and achieve. And so he wasn't consistent. So I told him, like, Harry, I need someone to be consistent on these hours. There's a lot of messages that are being missed. And especially when I'm paying you as well, I need to make sure I get my return. Like as a business, it needs to be an ROI positive. And so, you know, we went to a mutual agreement that Harry should just focus on what he's good at. And I go back to hiring the VA, a messenger. But before we did, I had someone on standby. And one of the coaches in Will's program needed a messenger. And at this time, I didn't need one. So I'm like, well, I have one on standby ready to go. We're vetted, just ready to plug and play. Would you like them? And then I realized I went through all this effort. I could teach someone how to do it, but our systems are so efficient. Why don't I just productize this? And so we did. And within a matter of days, we built the business from the ground up. And then in the first week, we made close to 20,000 cash collected. And we finished a month on just under $50,000 for a brand new business. And of course, there's a teething period. I covered yesterday how we messed up and how we plan to 1, make amends, 2, make it right, and 3, establish preventative measures and improvements so that it doesn't happen, occur again, and to continue to reinforce and build an amazing business. Okay, so I really want to break down exactly what we did to actually get to this point. And really what it is it feels like an overnight success, but it was a byproduct of all the choices and sacrifices that we made over the years. There was a lot of trust already because I didn't pay a single dollar on ads. I haven't even launched this out to the public. It's just internal to the coaching and mentorship because there's a lot of trust. Having made $250,000 a month, having good systems in place, and having our messengers provide their testimonial in terms of what it's like working here, people wanted a piece of that. And so we're literally just sharing what we've learned and what we know. And the value that you provide and are able to distribute to the universe will reciprocate every single time. And this is called the law of reciprocity. So it's not about how hard you work. It's about knowing what matters most and then doubling down. Number 2 is you need to learn how to ask better questions. Most people ask, how do I get more clients? How do I make more money? This is the wrong question. You're asking for a solution. And the highest level of coaching, ironically, is not coaching. It's creating a controlled environment of despair to allow someone to figure things out for themselves. That is the most powerful thing that you can do for someone, is by not helping them. And so we're really key attribute or skill that I've developed is learning how to ask the right questions. And so we knew that there was a gap, and we had to figure out, okay, what's the gap and how do we fill this in? So for example, we had like 5 or 6 clients. How do I keep on track of all 5 of them? That's the question. So I built a system to keep on track of all 5 of them. How do I know what stage they're at any point in time? Built a system there. How do we communicate internally efficiently and be able to reference what needs to be done when and when it's due? How do I know when they paid, when we need to set, what our expectations are? How do I organize everything? And that's how we built the systems, by asking the right questions. Like, who do I need to be in the room to solve these faster? What do I need to know? Power comes from precision. Start with clarity before complexity. You just need an MVP, which is a minimum viable product. And what is that? It is the bare minimum that you need for the business to function. You see, the mistake that I see most people make is that they wait for perfection before they get started. Everything, their ducks need to be in a row. Everything needs to be perfect before they execute. But in reality, you just need to execute imperfectly. Take messy, imperfect action. And when you take messy, imperfect action, what happens? You take action. You're not just analyzing and getting caught in this zone where nothing happens and you're just going through analysis paralysis. But you actually learn. Think about the time that you spend hesitating. Had you had taken action, you would have moved so much quicker. And look, when your thinking is clear, your actions become simple. Number 3 is building leaders, not doers. You didn't scale by doing more. You scaled by doing less of the wrong things. Delegate outcomes, not tasks, right? You have to learn how to master the process of learning, and then learning how to skill transfer that and give people ownership, not just instructions. Don't just command them, tell them what to do. Understand that there's a mission objective that needs to be completed, and the objectives need to be divided amongst all the people. Everyone's role is equally as important, because the ship would not sail without each person. So you think about an actual ship. Let's say a pirate ship. There's a person that's going to be cleaning the decks. They're equally as important as the captain, because if the person doesn't clean the decks and it's slippery, you're going to start losing crew members. The chef that's cooking food for the whole crew, you have the guy that's manning the mast, and the guy that's looking at the telescope to gather the bearings, and then the captain that's actually taking direction. Everyone's just equally as important. Without one, the ship will not turn. And so therefore, leadership is actually about bringing out the best in everyone, uniting them so that they can work in unison with synergy. And it also means that not one person can be an operational risk where the business is dependent on just one person. I have to ask myself, if I got hit by a bus, would the business continue to grow without me? And before July, the answer was no. I got sick towards mid of June, and I wasn't able to take as many discovery calls. And this was a big realization moment for me, that what happens? If I take a step back, what happens to the business? It will stop turning. We won't have a closer. So I have to invest the next 2 or 3 months to build a team of closers. And that means I have to take a step back from the sexiest role and the most fun role in the business, which is taking the discovery calls. And in exchange, I need to give the team the experience that they need. This trains leaders, and you're not just hiring workers. Because if you're the only soldier and the general, you're going to lose every war. Number 4, communication and collaboration. Clear communication creates speed. Misalignment means wasted time. And so I'm very hard on the team when it comes to communication. Everyone needs to communicate clearly. Give you an example. We had Coach Nam, an amazing coach. And of course, with anyone, we all make mistakes. And there was this one time that he forgot to upload a meal plan for a client. And I saw the notification come through, and I didn't pull him up on it because accidents happen. And the next week, guess what? The same thing happened. And so what did? I pulled him up on it. I said, Nam, what happened here? And then Nam said, I'll upload the meal plan now. And you know what I said? I said, that's not what I asked. What happened? Did we forget? Did you forget? Did you follow the checklist? I need to get down to the root cause. And that comes with clear communication. I asked what happened. I didn't ask what he was going to do. And so being conscious of how you communicate with your team can speed up the process. And I said, you should have just listened and answered me from the first question, rather than delaying it. Now we're having a 10-minute conversation when we didn't need to. And so being able to optimize those little interactions here and there stacks up because you have 3 of those in a day. That's 45 minutes for a conversation that should have taken 2 minutes. And communication isn't just about talking to each other. It's about listening. It's about having systems in place where you can communicate non-verbally. Having a dashboard that communicates everything that you need at a glance so you don't have to interact with each other. Of course, interacting with each other is always going to be a benefit and having that human touch. However, you want to streamline the process. I'm going to take a little bit of a mini break here. And if you guys don't already, you guys can follow me on YouTube. New YouTube videos are going to be coming out next week. And you can subscribe to these podcasts on the Apple Podcasts and Spotify app. It will really help our business grow and reach more people. And you can also follow me on Instagram at The Asian Coach as well. I am just going to adjust the lighting here. Alrighty, we're back. Cool. So how we communicate internally as a team is through daily huddles. We catch up every single day to touch base on all the items that are currently being worked on at the moment. We also have end-of-day reports that we track non-empirical data. And those end-of-day reports is really to track personal development, mental health, goals, and gratitude, things that allow the team to be the best version of themselves. And we communicate through Slack, which compounds the ROI because it's just the bridge to close the gap on anything that we can't see on the dashboards and in the reports. We allow everyone to be able to speak clearly and openly about any feedback or suggestions that they might have so that we're not just dependent on one person's vision or opinions, but everyone has an opportunity to contribute towards the bigger mission objective. This gives everyone direction. It opens feedback loops, which creates a self-perpetuating wheel of motion of idea generation that everyone feels empowered to contribute because every time they have an idea, it can materialize into something great that makes their job easier, which allows us to produce a greater work output for less effort, meaning that we can continue to scale. This means that you're building a team that solves problems without waiting for you to step in. Number 5 is systemize your thinking. Systems don't just mean automation, they mean mental frameworks. Like if you're consistently making ad hoc improv decisions every single day, what happens? That's going to wear you out in terms of decision fatigue. And what happens when you go through decision fatigue? Your mental capacity is reduced. And the result of that is that you increase the stress that you feel by the end of the day. Your brain is absolutely battered and it is worn down. And what happens when you're worn down? Consequently, you don't want to make more decisions when you come home. So you start making bad ones. You start eating junk food. You start relying on dopamine to give you that release. You start spacing out and you become a zombie. And so what do? We use Notion. We structure all our thoughts, our SOPs. We have all the checklists and the templates in there to make sure that the service that we're providing is consistent, that we don't miss things, and we can reduce the use of our mental capacity for things that actually matter. And we make sure that everything is going to be consistent. This removes chaos by mapping out all our workflows in a clear, concise way that everyone can follow. And we document everything once, which means that you do it once, you can repeat it, and it will free your bandwidth forever. And every time you repeat something, it turns into a process. And every time we keep the process consistent, we get to build upon that process. It's like your nutrition. If you don't track your nutrition and eating different foods every day, how are you going to improve? How are you going to be able to see the common denominators of what's working, what's not working, what the variables are? Number 6, that's the most important. It's do the boring shit on repeat. Most guys quit because success is unsexy. It's boring. It's menial. It's tedious. The systems that made you money, they look like tracking KPIs, reviewing data, following the same onboarding call script. It's not exciting, but this is what leads to building a successful business. I wasn't chasing excitement. I was building consistency. I didn't think about what I wanted to do or what I don't want to do. All I thought about was what needed to be done. And in doing so, that's what built our processes. And that's what built the systems that we have that allow us to operate at a high level of efficiency to produce a greater work output for seemingly less effort than what other people are doing, meaning that we can do more. The less you chase the novelty, the faster you actually scale. I think if you are here chasing some secret, then I'm here to tell you there are no secrets. And the secret is really just right in front of you. It's just doing the simple things that you don't want to do. And if you do it long enough, consistently enough, you will start to achieve results. It just takes time. It took us 4.5 years to create this overnight success. You don't need to do everything. You need to do what matters every day. Because the faster that you stop trying to be a superhero, the faster you build a business that runs without you. The secret to scaling is system simplicity and surrounding yourself with killers. And you can do this by hiring killers or training and building them from the ground up. If you build them from the ground up, you will never be afraid of losing them because you can, not to say that they're replaceable, but you have a system and a process in place that can train, upskill, and recruit someone should the worst happen. And that's called business continuity. And most importantly, you need to love your team. You need to treat them like family. Treat them with the respect that they deserve and invest time, effort, and energy to build them. And understand that they also might leave if they were to outgrow your business. But you need to love your team enough to be willing to let them go. Guys, that is it for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. And a bit of a personal update. I need to take my car to get the suspension tuned. I've got a track day this weekend. I'll be documenting the whole process. It will be my second time this year. I'm looking to get maybe 6 or 7 track days this year before the season ends, before it gets too warm. So if you guys are interested, be sure to follow me on YouTube. Follow me on IG at The Asian Coach for updates on that one. If you guys need help building systems, build a team, scale your business, and the mindset to scale fast or even progress in your career, DM me the word 6 and I'll show you the blueprint. Besides that, guys, hope you guys had a great day so far. And just going through some comments here. Appreciate you, Nelly. Appreciate you, Hang. Thank you guys for tuning in. But that is it for today. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace.